That has to be the most boring voice ever created. Not Bradley's, now that the meeting has started. I'm going to share this to Facebook real quick, and then I'm going to let you take full reign here, Bradley. So let me just get this into the group, if it will. That's weird. Oh, there we go. All right, give me just a moment. Sorry. This is weird. Zoom updated all of their, apparently all of their training here. I mean, you know how they share, you do the webinar part?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I have not used this since they updated it. Give me just a moment. Go into Viper tools here. Huh. Okay, so Zoom's not letting me do it. That's okay. We'll hack them later. We are live. We are recording here, so we'll just have to do it here, and I'll post the train later. So Bradley, again, thank you so much for coming in. You're absolutely right on the webinar I've got later, guys. Later this week, I'm going to be having an awesome press release guy up. Amazing stuff. Bradley's been using this guy, I think, for about 5 years, right?
No, since I think they launched in 2014, and I was on their launch webinar, and I've been a customer of his ever since.
Unbelievable. Yeah. That's longevity, man. That's a really good company, good business, and Bradley's got some amazing strategy. So I really appreciate you coming up here, man. I don't know, can you see the Q&A under the chat?
Yes. Yeah, I can see it.
Awesome. I'll also call these out to you later on, but I'll let you talk the whole time, and afterwards, guys, if you want, post in during the webinar questions you have, and we'll address them afterwards, if that'll work for you, Bradley.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. I mean, all right, man.
And this isn't a whole lot of formal stuff. I do have some slides, but I'm going to run through this rather quickly, guys, because it's really simple. You guys are all familiar with how to use the Viper tools, and I'm going to be talking specifically about the Google Traffic Viper today. We can also, I didn't put this into the slides, but if you guys want to hear like some of my methods for the GMB, what I'm doing with the GMB Traffic Viper, I'll share with you that, but it's quite simple. Again, so I was going to be talking more about Traffic Viper strategies than GMB, but we can talk about both. But like I said, it's fairly simple. It's just a particular method that works really well that I've found consistently works. And so that's kind of what I'm going to go through today. So people are saying, yes, please do share your GMB strategy. Yeah, well, the GMB strategy, guys, is really simple, which is just, I just go into Google Keyword Planner, and I always use 3 sets of keywords for that. I always okay, let's cover that first, and then we'll get into the the Google Traffic Viper stuff with the slides, if that's okay with you guys. Is that all right with you, Michael?
Yeah, that's great. That's
okay. Great. So, you know what, because I should have known that I was going to get this. Let me give me 1 second to log into Google Ads, and I'll just pull open a keyword planner file real quick, and then I'll show you guys exactly. Stand by for 1 minute. Right there. Okay, zoom in a little bit, and then I'm going to grab the screen so you guys can see what I'm seeing. Okay. Host disabled participant screen sharing.
What?
So I need you to give me permissions to share screens, please.
Hey, I'm going to make you host, man. Just don't kick me out.
Well, watch your P's and Q's, man.
I'll be on my best behavior.
I'm gonna hijack your group.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Pirates.
All right, cool. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
All right, cool. So with GMB stuff, guys, all I do anymore is tree service contractors. I just do SEO for tree guys, tree service companies. So it's real simple for me to scale, and I love being in a single industry because it just makes everything so much easier. So anyway, I have a template that I use for keywords that I track, because out of all the years I've been doing lead generation for tree service companies, there's only a handful of keywords that actually produce leads consistently. I mean, there's obviously dozens and dozens of like really long tail stuff that occasionally will generate a lead, but they're not worth optimizing for. So I just really stick with a core set of keywords, and you can see that list is right here. In fact, if we just 1 second, I'll show you guys. This is just a keyword template that I use for that. As soon as it opens, it's on an external hard drive. But anyways, right there, if you guys can see, again, I know this is specific to my industry, but these are the keywords right here that I typically will track for, and Manassas obviously is, one, is just the city name. So but this is typically the type of, the set of keywords that I will use. So when it comes to the Gmb Viper, what I do is I just go in and basically they're tokenized. And so I'll just swap it out with the actual city and state, right, for whatever project is. And I actually pulled Manassas up as my example here. And then I always go in, guys, and I use the Google Keyword Planner for this, again, because like I said, in my specific industry, the search volume metrics are close enough. Obviously, remember, this is a Google Ads keyword tool. So this is really showing you search volume and activity and such for Google Ads, but it's comparable. So these are the numbers that I use for search for SEO as well. Okay. But as you can see, like what I do is I just put that one group of keywords in that I just showed you guys, obviously with the correct location modifier. And then I always localize the search, right? It's by United States, for example, and I'll just demonstrate this really quick. And I know most of you guys know this, but I'm just going to demonstrate this. If I were to remove Manassas and just go to default United States, the numbers are way skewed, right? I mean, because this is on a national search level, and obviously the keywords that have location modifiers are going to be more, they're going to be closer to what the actual numbers are specific to that area, right? That city, that location. But all the other numbers are way, way off. So I always go in, and depends on the area, right? If it's a smaller city, then I might also include the larger county, right? The county that typically encompasses a city. I might also include that. It just depends on the actual, the specific location. But for the most part, I would just go in and target just the city itself, because the way that I do it with the Traffic Viper, the Gmb Viper, excuse me, is I always stick with really, really localized searches. So in other words, I always select coordinates under the geolocation options, and I always put well, not always, depending on what I'm doing, but generally I will put the coordinates of where the GMB is physically located. And then I will do a radius. And typically I don't go beyond usually very rarely will I go beyond a 5-mile radius. And I've got a very specific way in which I set up I always do 3 Gmb Viper campaigns for each GMB. And I'll show you exactly which type of Viper campaigns I'm talking about. So anyways, these are my overall searches. And then what I do is, you can see, I have basically 3, there's 4 here, but these are let me just put, these are the 3 groups that I always do, right? So this would be considered a general. So I'm going to put that above. So I just say general keywords. Okay. That, if you guys see that, so these are no location modifiers and no near me modifiers. Does that make sense? So again, these are my top level keywords. There's 5 there, because that's all you can put in the Viper, at least from the last time I tried it. It said max 5 keywords. So I just never go more than 5. So I do a general keyword campaign. Then I do a near me keywords. And you can see that here. And then I always do, because by the way, and I don't know about other industries, because like I said, all I work in anymore is tree service industry, but the tree service near me keywords typically get more searches than even general keywords. I mean, for the most part, it's not always the case, but oftentimes the near me keywords get more searches often than even general keywords do. And then these are what I call the geo keywords. Okay. So that's it. I always set up 3 campaigns for every single GMB. I always do it exactly this way. I set up the general keyword campaign, the near me keywords, and the geo keywords, right? So those are keywords with the geographic modifier. The way that I typically do it is, I know this varies, but I've heard different opinions in the group. But the way that I always do it is I just do a quick, I add all of the keywords in each group together, the average monthly search volume, and then I divide it by the number of keywords so that I get an average monthly search volume for that group of keywords. And then what I always do is I always do a times 0.3 or 0.35. So I'm doing basically 30 or 35% of whatever the overall search volume is for that set of keywords per group, if that makes sense. Okay. So, you know, for example, you know, if we were to go through like just these three, let's just do the near me keywords, then this would be tree service near me is 50. So 50 plus tree removal near me is 20 plus tree trimming near me is 10. Okay. So we have a total of, what would that be? 80, right? So then it would be 80. Let's go to calculator. And 80 times 3, right? So 30% would be 24. So half of that would be 28. So basically my monthly search volume or clicks, so my monthly activity in this case would be between 24 to 28 per month.
And Bradley, if I could jump in real quick, this is awesome. Thank you so much for breaking this down like this. I think one of the big confusions that people have, and I was noticing this in the Google Ads Planner, is people look at the main keyword volume and then they base their 20% off of that and they don't drill down to the local. They forget about the local. So thank you for explaining that, because that's a big hang up for people.
Absolutely. And, you know, again, that's the thing is, and I've tested this, guys. I've tested this with all different varying numbers. So I've gone pretty aggressive before, where I've actually gone over and above what like monthly search volume would even show as being like reasonable. Excuse me, let me close that down. Sorry about that, guys. Anyways, sorry, I just lost track of everything because of a stupid call coming in. So yeah, it's really, you know, I've tested with going high search volume, and you know that sometimes will move the GMB like initially, but if you try to sustain that, then it basically just like, it doesn't last for very long and things will start to drop down. And it's probably because it just looks super unnatural. So one of the strategy that I'm going to talk about today, mainly, which is the using press releases and referral traffic. There's a good way to combine the GMB Traffic Viper with the Google Traffic Viper when you're doing a press release campaign, which is what I'm going to share today, specifically because what you can do is when you're running, like, for example, if you publish a press release and then you kind of mimic viral behavior, or you show a bunch of traffic, referral traffic coming from the press release to your either your GMB or your money site landing page, or both, depending on what your target URLs are within the press release, then you can also increase your search and click traffic from the GMB Traffic Viper to kind of show a correlation between increased traffic from the press release and the GMB. Like, in other words, the traffic and activity to the GMB will increase during the time that you have elevated traffic numbers from the press release campaign. So what I'm saying is the way that I do this with you know, the GMB Viper is, this is what I do when I set up campaigns that I run for like 28 days in a row. And these are basically campaigns that just always run. But if I'm going to do a PR campaign using the Traffic Viper, then what I might do is go in and clone one of these campaigns and then increase the numbers, the activity numbers essentially, but run it on a smaller drip schedule, like you know, 5 days or 7 days or something like that, to where I have both what I would consider an evergreen campaign, although I don't use the evergreen button. I just restart those campaigns. This would be like my normal activity that's just always running. And then what I'll do is, like I said, I'll run a PR campaign through the Traffic Viper, and then I'll come into the GMB Viper and I might, you know, clone each one of these groups and then set it with a higher search activity, but only for 5 days. And that's just to coincide with the press release campaign. So it shows an elevated GMB activity during the time that the press release was getting a bunch of traffic as well. Does that make sense? Was I clear on that, Michael?
Yeah, total.
Okay. Andrew says, somebody says I wasn't ready for math. That's why they make calculators. Andrew says, am I just spinning my wheels if the GMB isn't optimized very well? Yeah, that should be your first step. I mean, you should always, 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 always optimize your GMB first. It's going to respond better to everything you do if you optimize your GMB first. So, all right. Is everybody clear on that? I don't see any questions coming in specific to that, guys, so I'm going to keep on moving. I find keyword volumes from impressions on Google Search Console. Any downside to doing it that way over Keyword Planner? No, you can do it that way too. Yeah, you can do it that way too. A lot of my projects, guys, I don't even have websites like clients and stuff. A lot of client projects now, I just do Gmb stuff. Like I tell them flat out, I'm not working on your website. Like I'm just going to stay in Gmb. I'll do everything I need to do in Gmb. And so like in that case, I don't have access to Search Console for those projects, nor do I want it. So I just will stick within Google Keyword Planner for search volume metrics. It just makes everything easier that way. So.
Yeah, so I do have a quick question here. I see, would you apply the same model from the press release to a guest post?
Yeah, you can. You absolutely can. What I would do with that though, and I've done some of that too, but I would, depending on the overall blog itself, like if you know what the traffic numbers are from the guest post, like from, and I don't mean the specific post itself, but like from the overall blog that it's posted on, then you can kind of judge, or at least, you know, set up some reasonable traffic numbers to run through that. The problem is a lot of the times you don't have those traffic numbers on guest posts. Sometimes you do, depending on the service that you're buying guest posts from. They may tell you like what the traffic numbers are of the blog itself, so the root domain and that kind of stuff. And so you can kind of judge or gauge your traffic activity based upon those overall numbers, which I try to do. But the reason I'm telling you all this is because with press releases, especially the ones that get picked up and go into Google News, can get a lot of eyeballs to them very, very quickly. And so, you know, if it's a new post on a guest, you know, it's a guest post on a blog, and it's a brand new post, and it's on a blog that doesn't get a whole lot of traffic, and you send an, you know, ungodly amount of traffic to that guest post, it's going to look super unnatural. So again, I would just, you know, I would base it upon what you can, if you have like traffic stats on that blog itself. If you can't, then just be reasonable. Just don't go overboard is all I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I had another one from, let's see here, from Scott Patton says, do you ever use data from Ahrefs?
No, because I don't have Ahrefs. I use Majestic for all my link building analysis, like backlink analysis. So I use Majestic, SEMrush for some stuff, but typically no, I just use Google Keyword Planner, Gmb Insights, Search Console if there's a money site attached, that kind of thing. So.
Okay, one more from John. John says, what percentage of the keywords would you target on a singular site for it to not raise any red flags of Google? Example, a site is ranking for 2,000 keywords. Would you target as many as 1,000 with Traffic Viper?
Me? No. I mean, because what I'm doing is I'm always trying specifically, you know, again, I'm in an industry where 2,000 keywords just isn't even, you know, it's not even on my radar. You know, tree services are fairly clear cut. Like in other words, it's not a whole bunch. But what I typically do is I will look for, now, for example, is a great idea with, or you know, a great way to apply this using Google Search Console is go into Search Console and find keywords that are showing impressions. But if you check the box to show your average rank, your average position, if you find keywords that are getting a bunch of impressions, but the position is like page 2, page 3 or beyond, then those are the keywords that I would consider as a good opportunity for the Traffic Viper. But first you need to optimize the page itself to get, you know, to have a better chance of ranking. And then let me back up because I think I got a little bit too far ahead. A really good strategy for the Traffic Viper, if you don't plan on doing a bunch of page optimization, would be to find keywords or pages that are ranking for keywords that are ranking on position, you know, page 2, probably no further than page 2. So like position 11 to 20, right? Find those types of keywords that in whatever page is showing in the Google's giving that page impressions for that search query. And then you can start setting up targeted Gmb Traffic Viper Google Traffic Viper campaigns for that specific keyword to, you know, click through to that page. But I wouldn't do that, not with any measure, like, you know, not with any like high numbers or anything if it's on page 3 or beyond, because nobody does that. It just looks super unnatural. But page 2, yeah, I would start with very modest numbers and just have a little bit of click activity going through. and try to get it to surface to page 1. And once it gets to page 1, you can increase your traffic numbers a bit. However, what I was going to say was, I've been doing a lot of on-page optimization recently using Conversion AI, which is fabulous, mixed because it also integrates with Surfer SEO. And those two tools combined do a really good job of helping you to optimize content and flesh content out a lot more. And so what I've been doing more recently for organic side of things is finding pages that are on like page 3 or page 4 that have a bunch of impressions, but their position sucks, right? And so then I have my blogger go in and she'll, optimize the page content using Surfer SEO, flesh it out a little bit more, do all the internal linking that needs to be done, add some authority outbound links, all that kind of stuff. And usually we usually wait 3 to 4 weeks to 21 to 28 days to see where Google allows that page to kind of settle in from the on-page optimization, which typically it moves, several positions just from the on-page optimization. And then we'll start running traffic to that page. But again, very modest numbers to begin with. And once it surfaces to page 1, as soon as it gets to, position 10 or above, then we'll start to increase the numbers a little bit and try to push it up further. And then that's when I'll get in and do some more targeted link building, might publish a press release and point back to that particular page and then run traffic through the press release to that page. And all of that really will help to get it to jump. I've had pages recently jump from page 4 to page 1 in a matter of a week.
Wow.
From this particular method. And I'm talking about organic rankings now. So.
Wow, that's great. Thank you, Bradley.
Yeah, no problem, man. Okay, guys, if it's cool with you, I'm going to jump into the Traffic Viper stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so these are the ones that I was really planning on sharing with you guys anyways today. And again, this is specifically using the Traffic Viper. So there's 3 methods that I'm going to talk about today: direct to a press release, and then direct from, so it's a direct traffic without no search and click, but this is where you check the box inside Viper Tools and you send the traffic directly to the press release and then click through to the target URL or target URLs within the press release. I'm going to show you guys exactly how I do that. Search and click traffic to a PR and then to the target URLs, excuse me. And that works really good for PRs that are ranking in the SERPs and if you want them to stick longer. And there's also a way to manipulate brand search. Brand searches are a great signal to Google for a brand. It helps what's called, entity weight. It helps the entity to become heavier, more authoritative when there's more brand searches. So search and click traffic is really, really good for a couple of reasons. One, to get the press release to stick when it's already ranking. Number 2, it's also a really good search signal for the entity, for the brand itself, because brand searches are a great signal. And then lastly, direct traffic to a Gmb post or posts with and then clicking through the target URL, which is the Cta button in a Gmb post. And I've got 3 examples I'm going to show you guys for that today. Okay, so the first one, and I'm going to show you live examples. I've got a couple of new projects. One is a brand new client, which I wasn't going to show any client stuff, but it's kind of a brand new one. And I think it would be a good example for me to show you guys. So I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm going to show you a couple of those today. And then I've got another lead gen asset that I set up that I haven't really done much with in the last month, but prior to that, I had done a couple of campaigns and I'm going to show you some stuff with that as well. So, all right. So for the direct to PR. So again, this is not search and click. This is a direct traffic. And this is, guys, I'll share these slides with Michael so that he can share the Google Slides with you guys as well. But if you want to screenshot this, you can as well. Choose a press release URL that you want to send traffic to. I prefer to use a PR that gets into Google News. So for example, Digital Journal, which is one of the press release publications that Press Advantage syndicates to, which is, to let the cat out of the bag. That's who Michael's going to be interviewing or having on with a webinar later this week is Jeremy Notzelman from Press Advantage. Again, Jeremy has worked very closely with Semantic Mastery and Marco and I for integrating a lot of what we teach as far as SEO stuff and, our methods into the Press Advantage platform. At mgyb.co, which is our, MGYB, by the way, stands for Make Google Your Bitch. So our store is mgyb.co. And you can buy individual one-off press releases there that are published. They're written by and published through the Press Advantage platform. Just so you guys know, we're resellers for Press Advantage under MGYB. If you don't need a whole bunch of press releases all the time, then you can buy one-offs from us at MGYB, and you'll get all the benefits that you know, are included with the Press Advantage press releases. And this is not a pitch fest to sell you guys on stuff. I'm just telling you specifically the method that I'm sharing with you guys today. I use Press Advantage. I've been a customer there since like 2014, I think. And again, it's an integral part to what we do at Semantic Mastery and the type of SEO that we teach, and building our entity assets and everything. Like, it's absolutely critical. So when I talk about the press release stuff that I'm talking about, there are other platforms out there. I'm not saying you can't use them. I'm just talking specifically about how I'm applying these to press releases that we publish through Press Advantage or MGYB as resellers for Press Advantage. Okay. So anyways, just want to clarify that. So I prefer to use a PR that gets into Google News. For example, Digital Journal. Digital Journal is one of the locations that gets, and I'm going to show you examples of this, so just stand by for a moment. Another one, though, if you don't have, if you're not going to buy press releases from MGYB, or you're not going to, if you don't have your own Press Advantage subscription, then you can also use a free version that gets into Google News within minutes, and it's at patch.com. It's a classified post, and patch.com automatically gets inserted into Google News. It's a pretty cool hack. It's a hack that I learned from Brett Misner. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but there's that YouTube video URL right there. I'm going to drop this in chat as well. This is a YouTube video on his channel that talks about the Google News hack using patch.com. And he talks about how to set up the accounts and everything else, and exactly specifically what type of post and everything else. So I'm going to put this in. It's all panelists and attendees. This is the patch.com Google News hack. And again, give credit to where credit is due. Brett Misner, I'm probably butchering his name, and I apologize for that. But it's definitely a pretty cool source to get into Google News rather quickly. So I would encourage you guys to check that out. Go ahead, Michael.
That's amazing, man. Thank you. And I was going to say, don't worry about name butchering, because I am the king of that. I pissed off one of my guys so bad by saying his name wrong so often they finally quit. Because I couldn't pronounce his last name. So don't feel bad. I am right there.
So again, patch.com, and I'll show you an example of that. Here, I'll go ahead and show that to you now. This is an example. Here's one of my lead gen assets. That again, I haven't done a lot with it lately, but if I search for what I titled that's a patch.com classified announcement post. Okay, you see that? And this is, you guys, you can flesh these out with content. You can add headings. You can get real spammy in here too, by the way. But you can see, like, I always recommend optimized content. So, you know, again, we draft content. Conversion AI does most of our writing now. I just have a blogger that kind of guides Jarvis to do all the writing. It's fabulous. And then we optimize stuff with Surfer SEO. And so these you can get really spammy with, but it's a great strategy. Now, keep in mind, guys, not every location is going to have a patch.com, like, you know, isn't going to have a patch community in every location. But if you don't, find just whatever the closest, it'll suggest to you nearby patch communities. So just select the closest city. Okay. And then again, Brock's video will kind of covers a lot of this stuff. So I'm not going to go into that, but you can get pretty spammy with these, and they go into Google News. Look at that. I mean, that's in Google News from 3 weeks ago. So, okay. All right. So that's a patch.com article. Let me go back. All right. So add the URL to the web. So this is the PR URL. You're going to add the PR URL to the website URL field in Viper. You're going to check the direct non-search traffic checkbox. The radius for direct traffic through PRs, I usually go with 8 to 10 miles from location coordinates. You can go broader, but I'm looking for localized traffic. That's because I want those local IP clicks. That's what I'm looking for. So again, you can go broader, but specifically, I usually go with, you know, no more than 10 miles. And that's just the way I've been doing it. The search keyword, I just put in brand search. It doesn't really matter because on a direct non-search traffic, it's not even using the keyword, but I just add the brand name in the search field there, the keyword field, excuse me. The URLs to click, specific URLs, I put in the target URLs within the PR. So that's specifically what I want it to click through to. I'm not going to get into like specifically the press release siloing, guys. If you want to figure out how to do that, you know, you can go to our YouTube channel, Semantic Mastery, and search like press release silos or PR silo stacking. There's, you know, whatever you'll find on our channel webinar that I did. It's free. You guys can watch it, where I talk about how to silo press releases together, which is, you know, super powerful. So if you're going to do press release silos, then on your first press release, I recommend just one target URL within the press release to whatever you want to push power to. So if it's a Gmb, you can push to the Gmb website, the Gmb map, or to the location landing page, whatever's, you know, website is associated with the Google My Business. I tend to do a lot of stuff direct to Gmb now, as opposed to like even dealing with money sites anymore. I still do on occasion, but I tend to try to stick within the Gmb ecosystem as much as possible. Okay. But for every subsequent PR in a press release silo, you can link to the previous PR, to whatever target, you know, the previous PR, so that you're creating that silo where all the internal, like all the press release link equity is flowing up to that top of silo PR, where it has one exit point, which is your target URL. So you're basically pooling all of that link equity to that top of silo PR, which is then pushing all of it through to that one target URL. So just keep that in mind. However, there are times where I'll do just individual PRs that aren't part of a silo, and I might have more than one target URL in there. And I'm going to demonstrate that today. That's what I'm going to show you. And then I'm going to show you guys how to, in the blacklist URLs, when you're driving traffic to a PR, there's typically a ton of other links on a press release. So if you want to tell the bot, the Viper tool, not to click on those other links, then I just use what's called Link Gopher. It's an extension in both Firefox and Chrome, but you can quickly extract all the URLs on the entire press release page and add them to the blacklist section inside of Viper tools. And that way, you know that Viper's not going to click on any of those other URLs. So I'll show you that here in just a moment. And then the traffic options. Now, this is where you can play around with this a little bit. And I've talked to Michael about this as well. But Mach 25, I've only tested that a couple of times. But if you want to run Mach 25 traffic to first of all, make sure the press release is indexed. It's in Google News if you're going to do this. And then you can set up a Mach 25 campaign and send a couple of hundred visits to it, which happens very quickly. So, you know, you're not using the drip schedule. You're just setting it up and saying, you know, 200 visits or whatever. I try to use odd numbers, by the way, just like, anyways. But so Mach 25, you can do that, and that'll give it a really quick, like, flood of traffic. But I typically will only do that, like, you know, once, and that's right up front when the press release first gets published, and, you know, into Google News. Excuse me. And then I will always set up the drip schedule, and I tend to do like 10 to 14 days on press releases. I don't do like month-long campaigns like I do with other types of stuff, but I usually do, like, it depends. It as low as 5 days, but as many as 14 days. And then I do reasonable traffic numbers there. So again, you can do an initial like flood of traffic with a Mach 25 campaign, and then set up a drip campaign after that with just reasonable traffic numbers. And that's, again, it's the way that I look at these is I'm looking more for the referral traffic you can see it inside of Google Analytics if it's to a money site. And you can also see it in Search Console, but you can see it in Google Gmb Insights if you're running traffic into, for example, like a Gmb Post, if that's what your target URL is in your press release, or to the Gmb website, things like that. You can start to see those kind of traffic numbers trickling through Gmb Insights as well. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so let me show you what I'm talking about with that particular strategy, guys, and then we'll get into the next one. Yeah, okay. So here's an example. All right, so Gatling Tree Service, Culpeper. Gatling Tree Service is a tree company that has another location in Woodbridge, Virginia. I just brought him on as a client, I don't know, maybe 5 weeks ago now, and I basically expanded a second location, another maps listing for him in Culpeper, which is where he wants. This is a brand new listing. It's a spammed listing. In other words, it's, you know, it's not per Google terms of service a valid listing. So anyways, don't report me, guys. But anyway, if you see real quick, Gatling Tree Service Culpeper, that's just a brand search, right? But if we scroll down, take a look. Here is WBOC.com, which is one of the press releases that tends to rank right now. That it varies, you know, for the last month or two, WBOC press releases tend to rank very quickly. and on the page 1 for brand searches. Sometimes if you hit them with the right amount of links and traffic, you can get them to rank for keyword searches too. And it also depends on the keyword. But then, so that's the one that I'm using right now, but it varies. Like, 2 months down the road, it could be a totally different site that is ranking. But what happens is, with Press Advantage, typically your press releases will get picked up and republished by around 275 other publications. And so WBOC is one of them. Like I said, a month from now, 2 months from now, it might be another press release site entirely. But then what will happen is you'll notice that one particular site will rank for several weeks for all different types of projects. Okay, so this is what that press release looks like. Okay, so I just click through from that to here, and that's this press release right here. So if we were scroll down through here, I'm pretty sure this one only has one target URL, which would be this one here, which is going to the Gmb website. If we click through to that, you'll see it goes to the Gmb website. Okay, as I said, I try to stay away from doing website stuff for clients now as much as possible. I like to stick within the Gmb because it's just easier to manage, and I don't have to worry about their websites and optimizing crap sites that other people have done and all that. By the way, this is a YouTube link. On some of the publications, it will be an embed. On those that it won't allow a video embed, it's just a YouTube, it's just a citation link. In other words, it's not a hyperlink, it's just a mention of the YouTube URL. But you can, within Press Advantage, if you add, you can add a YouTube URL, and the sites that will allow a video embed, it will automatically embed it. Okay, so that's really good for those of you using the Google, the YouTube Traffic Viper, Video Viper. I don't do much YouTube SEO of any kind anymore at all, but if I was going to, press releases are great for that, because you can get, out of the 275 sites, there's a good percentage of them will, the publication sites and Press Advantage, a good percentage of them will show a map embed. And then if you run, traffic to it, especially if you're running high volume search traffic or Viper traffic to a video right after a press release has been published with the video embedded, then it really truly mimics viral behavior, right? Because it's showing like, okay, all of a sudden Google's embed code is picked up on, 100 plus media style news sites. Google knows where that code is. And then all of a sudden it's getting a whole bunch of views too. Then it really mimics viral behavior. So it's a really good strategy for those of you doing YouTube stuff. Okay. You'll notice in here, like I said, I don't think, and we'll check on I don't usually use Link Gopher in Firefox, but I added it to Firefox today to show you guys what I'm talking about. But if we just click this, it's called Link Gopher, by the way. Again, guys, it's a Firefox extension or Chrome. You can add it to Chrome too. But if I click Extract All Links, it opens up a new tab, and these are all the URLs on that entire page. Okay, and it goes down, and then it also separates them by domain. So what I do is I just copy all of them like that. Then I put them into a notepad file. And then all I do is I go through and just delete my target URLs that I want it to click on. So if I just scroll down through here really quickly, I should be able to see right there is culpeppertreeservice.business.site. That's the Gmb website. That's my target URL within the post body of the press release. Okay, so I'm going to delete that. And then if I scroll down and we see right here this is what's called a machine readable entity ID search URL. I'm not going to get into that today, guys. I'm sorry, that's something I can't really cover here, but that is another target URL on the press release page. I'll show you where that is, but I'm going to delete that because I don't want that to be blacklisted. I want this is going to be also included in my target URLs. So in fact, I'm just going to cut that, and we're going to paste this back into where are my notes? Right here. So this would be target URL 2. So I'm going to say TURL, 2. And then my first target URL would be the Google My Business website that I just showed you. Okay. And then I just scroll through. Now, again, I've only got 2, I believe, in this one. And that's because I only have one target URL in the post body of the press release itself. And then there's in the NAP area, I hacked in another link so that whenever it gets republished on other sites, that ends up being a second link in every PR, which is down here, the NAP area. So that's the other target URL I was talking about. If we click that and open that into a new tab, you'll see this shows just the knowledge panel only for that customer, or for that entity, if that makes sense. Okay, so as you can see, there's two URLs on this page. There's one within the post body, that's this one, which again goes to the Gmb website. And then there's this one under here, which is in the NAP area, which is a hacked link. This does not show in Press Advantage, but it does show on all the syndication sites. Okay, so it hyperlinks there, but in Press Advantage, it doesn't show. Just to let you guys know. So then all I do, like I said, is I go in and I set up that campaign. Whoops, that's the wrong, excuse me, guys. Let me close that down. I set up the campaign where I will do, you know, some sort of reasonable numbers on something like that. So, you know, for this one, I might do, I don't know, 10, maybe 15 searches per, or clicks. In this case, it's not a search and click. It's just direct clicks. So I might do 10 to 15 per day for the course of anywhere between 5 to 14 days. It just depends. Okay. And that's just to start showing activity. So again, the target URLs in this particular example would be, again, this one here, this one here, which goes to the Gmb website, and then this one here. So those are really good signals. Now, that's for just doing direct traffic. The next one, which is similar, is doing search and click traffic, okay? So this one works better for getting ranked PR to stick in the SERPs, and it also provides good brand signals because of the brand search, which is considered a navigational search query. Brand search is a very, very powerful signal. There was a patent by Google, which I think was approved in like 2010 or something like that. It was a long, long time ago, but it was dubbed or called, the nickname for it was the site weight patent. And I learned about this from Ivan Budimir from Maps Magic from long, long time, around 2010, I believe, maybe 2011. And when he actually went over the site weight patent, like he brought the patent up and everything else. And back in those days, we didn't have CT bots, click-through spam bots. We had microtask workers, and that's like essentially how we used to set those up. And I mean, this, you know, Michael's Viper tools are built upon a method, a foundation that, you know, we were using way back in 2010, 11 timeframe, but with microtask workers. He just found a way to automate it, you know, and it's great because like essentially the patent showed that if there were two sites that were similarly optimized with similar, you know, metrics, essentially page rank metrics at the time, and they were optimized for the, you know, essentially the same keyword and everything else, the one site that received, or the brand, the entity that received more navigational search queries, so people searching for that company by name, by website, by brand, whatever, would outrank the other one every time. And that was just built right into the algorithm. So navigational search queries, as it's known, and what that means is like searching for the brand name plus location, like, so, you know, Joe's Tree Service plus the city name, you know, brand plus phone number, like, so like searching for Joe's Tree Service phone number, not like actually adding the phone number in, but like asking Google, what is Joe's Tree Service phone number? That will show a rich snippet now. Back in those days it didn't, but it will show a rich snippet at the very top with the phone number for that brand. Brand name location, like, so where is the location? If it's a service area business, it might not show it. It might just show the city name. But if it's a storefront business, it'll show the address as a rich snippet at the top of Google search results. So navigational search, hours of operation, right? Brand plus hours of operation. Again, rich snippet will show the hours of operation at the top. All of those are considered navigational search queries, which adds to the entity weight, right? It's their brand signals. So those are all really, really, really powerful things that you can manipulate. And the Viper tools will allow you to do that in an automated way. And press releases are a great thing for this because, again, you can have it start searching for the brand name and then locate one of the PRs in the search results and click through, and then have the traffic click through the target URLs ultimately to your money site or Gmb asset. Does that make sense? So the same thing is select the PR that is ranking for a keyword or brand search. Most of the time I just go directly for the brand search, but you know, with the right amount of optimization and backlinks and stuff, you can get press releases to rank for keywords as well. So for example, we go back here, let's go back here, Gatling Tree Service Culpeper. If we scroll down, you'll see here is another press release that is ranked, and this one is in Digital Journal, okay? And that's also, if we were to come back up here and click on Google News, you're gonna see that's the Digital Journal press release for Gatling Tree Service Culpeper. Now, this was published on my, I built a directory site for tree service contractors. It's called Tree Care HQ, treecarehq.com. And so I have a whole nother brand for specifically for tree contractors in my directory site. So I have a Press Advantage organization where I publish press releases for Tree Care HQ every time, not every time, but for, you know, for clients that I take on or for lead gen assets that I add to the Tree Care HQ directory, then I always publish a press release, you know, promoting the directory listing for that company on the treecarehq.com site, if that makes sense. So this, if we click through to this, it goes to this website, or excuse me, this digital journal PR here, and it's talking about Tree Care HQ, which is my, again, my directory site. And it's obviously linking to the page, the company page for that contractor, that company on my directory site, which is here. Okay, you guys see that? So what I would do in this case is I would do a brand search for Gatling Tree Service Culpeper. Okay, so this is search and click traffic. Let's go back to all results. Then I'm going to tell Viper Tools to click through to this digital journal PR. So I'm just going to take this PR URL and I'm going to put that in the website URL field in Traffic Viper. I'm not going to check the direct traffic box. And then in the specific URLs box, I'm going to add the target URLs in the PR. Again, if it's the top of silo PR, I will typically only include one outbound link in the post body of the PR. So in this particular case, because it's going to be a two-step process, which I know Michael, and I don't know, all I know is Michael said that in the future, there will be the ability to direct the traffic bot to go to click specific URLs in specific sequences. I've still been able to manipulate and get it to work the way that I'm about to show you guys. It'll be a lot better when we can like literally chain those click activities together in a very specific order. But the way that I've been doing it is with this, for example, and this is a good example because this doesn't link directly to that Gatling Tree Service Culpeper asset, right? It links to a directory page first, right? So what I do is, in this case, there's two target URLs because this links to another internal page on my directory site, if that makes sense. So what I do on this case was I'd set up a search and click campaign with this URL as the website URL. Then I would put in the specific URLs that I wanted to click on, this URL. I would blacklist this one down here, as well as all the other ones on this page by using link Gopher. Okay, so again, I'd go here, extract everything else here except for the one URL that I wanted to click on, which in this case is this one here, to the directory page. And then I put in the specific URL section of Viper Tools, underneath this URL, I would also put this URL and this URL. Does that make sense? And this goes over to the Gmb website, as I showed you guys before. And then this one goes to, this is a redirect URL that goes to the Google map. Does that make sense? And so, and by the way, guys, you know, one of the things that I started doing just to test to make sure that clicks were occurring the way that I had wanted them to is for example, use redirect URLs that you can monitor click activity. So for example, if we were to click copy link and I were to put this into this notepad file, wrong one, you'll see that this is a redirect. It's just I use pretty links on my own domain. So it's TCHQ, which, you know, is short for Tree Care HQ. TCHQ.link is my link shortener domain that I set up specifically just so I can track stuff that I'm doing for this project. And so I have a specific URL there that just redirects to the maps listing, but it shows click activity. So I can actually monitor how many clicks are coming through that URL, if that makes sense. By the way, just so you guys know, at mgyb.co, we have a link shortener that has a ton of, it's mgyb.co/s for shortener. If you go there, you can get a free account. There's also it's super inexpensive, but this mgyb.co link shortener allows you to create redirect URLs with tracking, and depending on what level of subscription you have, again, it's very inexpensive. But we've built so many hundreds or probably millions of links now to mgyb.co short links that these short links, you'll actually siphon some power, like link equity from this just by shortening your links with this. It's crazy. Sometimes we'll shorten links with mgyb.co, and in the short URL, which is a redirect, ends up ranking as an mgyb.co URL as opposed to the actual money site URL. It's because there's so much power built into this. And it's just from, you know, years of us just spamming the shit out of this. So anyways, I would check that, guys. Again, you can use pretty links if you want something like that on a custom domain. I do that because I want the branding. But if you just want the URL shortener so that you can track clicks and things like that, this is a good service to use for that. Okay. Any questions on those two methods, guys, specifically?
There's quite a lot of questions over in the Q&A. Let me, if you don't mind, I'll run through a couple just to clear them out here.
Sure. And then we'll get into the Gmb post type.
Yeah, way back in the beginning here, Adrian actually had this, and I missed it. I wasn't able to say it fast enough, but this was back on the Gmb traffic, but I think this would pertain to both Gmb and Google traffic. He was saying you're on your text document up there. So if you had 80 visits, you divide it by 3 equals 26. Then you times it by 0.30. Adrian, I'm terrible at math here.
No.
It equals like 9 per month. You were saying.
Yeah. And I see where Adrian, no, just to clarify, no, what I do is I again, if we go back over here, these numbers right here, I always add up the keyword search volume, average search volume for each particular group. So again, if we bring up this group, you'll see like that's the general keyword group. There's 5 keywords. So what I would do is add the total traffic search volume numbers for each one of those keywords together, which is 5 in total. And whatever those search volumes for each keyword, add all 5 of those keyword search volumes together, then divide it by 5. That gives me an average number of searches for all 5 of those keywords, or excuse me, a total number of searches for all 5 keywords. And then I divide it by 5, which gives me an average. And then I multiply whatever that average number is by 0.3 or 0.35. Does that make sense? So again, if 80 times 0.3 would be 24, right? Times 0.35 would be 28. So my search traffic numbers would be between 24 and 28 per month is what I would set it to. Does that make sense?
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think that does on that. Okay, are you using any pay-per-click or PPC to judge if a keyword is getting impressions?
Well, I mean, I use Google Ads in conjunction with Viper Tools, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I use Google Ads, display ads particularly. Well, I also do YouTube stuff, YouTube ads. I stopped doing YouTube SEO a long time ago because I do everything with YouTube ads now and get really good results that way as well. But I use Google Display Network specifically for also localizing search clicks. And what's good about using Display Network ads for clicks is you can buy traffic from a known audience from Google. It's very inexpensive. I mean, I've got campaigns set up. In fact, if I pause the screen for one moment, I can show you guys, just because it works really good in conjunction. That's why I said with what I'm doing with the Viper tools is what I found with referral traffic, it works incredibly well. And then what I do is I augment or complement some of the Traffic Viper stuff with actual Google search display ad campaigns, because I can buy traffic from a known audience, if that makes sense. So, and I'll give you an example of that here in just a moment, guys. Let me close down. I did pause my screen, right? You guys aren't seeing it moving right now?
No, we're not, unfortunately, man. We want to see all that good stuff you have on your screen.
All right, let me show you. All right, so here's an example, guys. This is one of my other lead gen assets, another lead gen asset, excuse me. And you'll see, like, I've got a $2 a day budget in Google. This is display ads. So I'm in a display ad campaign, and you can see, for example, I've got 3 different ad groups set up for this one campaign with $2 a day budget. And what I'm doing here is, like, if we go into audiences, you'll see, like, what I like about doing this, and I'm, you know, again, I think it just complements well with referral traffic. And then if I'm buying traffic from a known audience, it tends to move the needle faster, in my opinion, or through my testing, I've proven that. And that's because, remember, when you're buying traffic from an audience in Google, a predefined audience, or you can create your own defined audience, what's called custom audiences, which is what I did with this particular campaign. But for example, in Google Ads, Display Network, and YouTube, you can go into what's called like an in-market audience. An in-market audience is a predefined bucket of Google users that Google has that based upon their recent activity online, Google has determined they are in market for a particular product or service. You can look at the what's called in-market audiences. There's also another one that's similar. It's called life events audiences. And you can go through and click through the different categories and see if there's one specific to the industry that you're promoting. For me, they have like home and garden services, and then they have like landscaping and lawn care, but they don't have one specific to tree services. But what that, in order to be in an in-market audience, Google says that the user has had to have performed searches or looked at content that would indicate to Google that they are in market for those particular services. So those are really, really good types of clicks to buy. And the reason why is because Google has already defined those people as being likely interested or in market to purchase that product, those products or services. And so therefore, if you're buying clicks from a very specific geographic area, right? So I usually do like a 3-mile radius. And I don't know if you see that, it's right there in the campaign name, 3-mile radius. I call those proximity push campaigns. And you buy it from, and the audience type is from a relevant audience, then those clicks are weighted even more than just local IP clicks, right? Because Google understands that those, or at least has determined through their own mechanism, that those people are interested in that product or service. So it makes sense for those clicks to be counted as like given more weight. They're weighted heavier, if that makes sense. So for example, what I do is I go in for audiences and I create, because they don't have a specific in-market audience for tree services, I just create what's called a custom audience. So like if I wanted to go in here and show you guys what a custom audience is, and this is getting away from Viper Tools, guys, but I just wanted to share this with you because you asked. I'll just very quickly. And it's going to act funny probably because of Zoom. But with custom audiences, you can add a list of keywords, and it's not the same as keyword targeting. It's saying that any people who searched for any of these terms in Google. Does that make sense? So this is about 200 keywords here, and they're all tree service related keywords and near me related. So there's no location modifiers on any of these keywords. It's just general market level tree service related keywords, and then tree service near me keywords, right? And you can see there's about 200 in here. And so this is showing that basically I'm saying that custom audience is I want anybody within a 3-mile radius of the, in this case, I use the geo coordinates of the Gmb location. So within 3 miles of that, anybody that has searched for any of those types of keywords within the last 30 days, I want my ad to appear to them. And when they click through, look at my average cost per click. You know, it's under 60 cents. If that makes sense. And by the way, if you guys understand Google Ads, if you set up what's called a maximize clicks campaign, when you first set up the campaign, your bidding strategy, use an automated bidding strategy, maximize clicks campaign. I've got another campaign that I was just looking at this morning, in fact, that I've got my average cost per click at 18 cents. So $2 a day gets a considerable amount of traffic. And again, I'm not trying to take away from Viper Tools here at all. What I'm saying is I found that doing the referral traffic method in conjunction with buying traffic from a known audience, you know, that Google's already defined for you, or you can define your own audience through custom audiences. It tends to move the needle faster. And then like the drip traffic that I showed you guys with the Gmb campaigns helps to get that to stick, which is what I was showing you guys here with these numbers right here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and Bradley, I totally agree, man, on all the different areas of driving traffic in my opinion, I don't think you should have it all from one source. I think it should be coming in from everything. So, you know, I think it'd be kind of suspicious to Google for a local business or local businesses in this case if you never buy an ad. You know, they've got it up there and they're going to say, well, wait a second, we're offering you this great traffic. Why are you not using it?
Yeah.
Why is this person, you know, are they really that good or are they doing something? So I think it's better, in my opinion, to spread the breadcrumbs all over the place and send traffic in from everything, from press releases, web 2s, video, and if you want to do the local ads like this, I think that's wonderful.
I agree. And so again, you guys, you know, like for example, that's this project has an actual money site. So I'm sending some traffic to the location landing page. I'm sending some traffic to the Gmb website, some to the MREID, which is the URL I just showed you. But in other campaigns, I send them direct to the map URL. And I'm talking about the long, ugly, unfurled map URL too, guys. Google will allow you to set up Google ad campaigns to any Google property. You can buy traffic to a Google Doc, believe it or not, to a Google spreadsheet. Like you can put that as the target URL in the ad. As long as it's a Google domain, Google will allow, hey, spend some money on sending traffic to a Google property. Google allows that. So my point is, you can use the long, ugly map URL. You can send traffic to a SERP URL, guys, like what I was showing you before. You know, there's a number of things you can do. And again, I'm not going to get into all that because that'll take us way beyond the scope of today. But anyway, let me get back out of here and we're going to cover one more thing. Unless you see any other questions, Michael, specific about that. Otherwise, I want to get to the Gmb post.
Sorry about that. I was muted.
No worries.
Yeah, so let me go back up and see here. Okay, how about this? Is anyone using Mgyb solely for their SEO outsourcing for their agencies?
Well, he must be talking. Well, if he's asking me, yes, of course. You know, obviously a lot of most of the stuff that I do is I buy everything through Mgyb. But we've got a lot of our own members that do that as well. I mean, there's certain things you're going to have to do in-house, but there's, you know, as far as setting up entity assets and like the SEO shield, that's in Press Advantage is, like I said, a critical component of that. Those are all things that, you know, we've got. For example, if you were in our free Facebook group, guys, which you all are welcome to, that Wayne Clayton just posted in there. He's starting a new agency right now, and he wants to use pretty much all of Mgyb services to fulfill the work. And he's publicly kind of running his agency. He announced it in the group, and he's posting regularly to give updates, like these really long form posts talking about what he's doing in his business. You guys should just go check that out, even if nothing else, just to follow like what he's doing, because he's sharing his numbers publicly, the good, the bad, the ugly of everything that he's doing. It's a really cool case study that he's doing. So I would encourage you guys to check that out.
That's awesome. Okay, are you creating PR content with Jarvis or ordering? If ordering, can you recommend content writer for PRs?
No, Press Advantage does all the writing for the press releases, which is beautiful because they also do long form content. Like if you guys see these, like this one just has a shitty image because it's just but if you take a look at these, the average press release length is between 600 to 800 words from Press Advantage. They do all the writing. I recommend that you allow them to do the writing. It's part of the service. Because if you submit your own content or hire another writer, then it goes through an additional like approval process with the editing staff, and it just takes longer for everything. And they might kick it back to you and require some edits. Or if you just have them do it, which is, again, if you buy press release from Mgyb, it's, you know, we don't even allow you to submit your own content. Press Advantage has to write it. Otherwise, it just slows down the whole process down. I just recommend them do it. They're really, really good at it, guys. They know what works on their network. So they just publish all this content, and it's usually done very well. So.
Okay, awesome. Are you optimizing the Google business site much?
Yes. Yes, as much as possible.
Okay. Okay, Dan says, I'm convinced both of these guys have rooms with the curtain they sit behind with a machine they use to rank shit. Wait, that's the Viper. Oh, that's great. Okay, yeah. So you're giving juice directly through your directory site then, right?
Yes, Dan, but yes, that was the, sorry, somebody, Johnny Chen was asking, is this the PR silo stacking webinar? Yes, it is, Johnny. Thank you for sharing that. What was the question again, Michael? I'm sorry.
If you were sending juice through the directory website.
Oh yeah, like because it's one of my own assets, I'm doing a considerable amount of optimization to the TreeCare HQ directory site, and these all directory pages become tier 1 entity assets for any client or any lead gen asset that I've added to the directory. Like we've got, you know, I've got hundreds and hundreds of listings on here, and I use this as a foot in the door strategy to start a conversation with my target prospects. But anybody that comes on that pays me money, either as a lead buyer, so buying leads from me, or if they become a client and they have me start working on optimizing their assets, then the TreeCare HQ page becomes a tier 1 entity asset. And so I use this as literally a link building point, a tier 1, you know, a tier 1 entity asset. So yes, I send a lot of juice through here as well as traffic, which benefits my TreeCare HQ directory as well as the ultimate destination, which is my client or lead gen asset. If that makes sense.
Okay, awesome. One more question, Bradley. I'll let you finish up on this.
Okay.
For your keywords, do you do multiple keywords per project in the Viper, or do you like to do one keyword per campaign?
Well, as I showed here, like with this, I always group my keywords based upon their type. So again, for general keywords, like for the Gmb Viper, I do 3 campaigns every time. And like I said, I do general keyword group, which is usually these 5 keywords, the near me keyword group, which is usually 3, and then the geo keyword group, which is usually 3, but sometimes it'll go as much as 5, depending on what Search Console shows me, or excuse me, Google Ads Keyword Planner shows me. So that's how I split these up. When it comes to the Traffic Viper, that's different. Usually I'm targeting just one keyword. It depends. It depends on what I'm doing. But like what I talked about earlier with the Search Console, going in and finding pages that are getting a lot of impressions, but they're not ranking super well. Like those are ones that I will target specifically that keyword to try to get that to move. Again, after you've optimized the page. But you know, sometimes, like, by the way, guys, don't forget to do set up brand search campaigns as well. Like what I mean is, take the brand search name, the company name, plus other types of navigational queries, like what I talked about earlier, right? So brand name, phone number, brand name, city or location, brand name, hours, things like that, and add those in as search and I just call that a brand search campaign. But I set that up with, and just, you know, have it click once a day, or once, you know, maybe instead of 20, like I always set up my campaigns in 28-day intervals. So instead of like doing 28, I'll do like something between like maybe 22 and 35. And I'll say, okay, just do a brand search. And here's my set of brand variations of the brand name too. Like for example, sometimes there might be an ampersand in the company name. Other times it might be an A&D, right? But just variations of that, because it just starts to train Google that there are people searching for that company by name, and it increases site weight or brand weight, which makes that site, that brand have more authority in Google's eyes. So don't just always stick with keyword searches is what I'm saying. Brand searches are very, very important.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's wrap it up, guys, with the Google My Business stuff, and then we will, I'll take a few more questions, and if we can get out of here in about the next 15 or 20 minutes, that would be awesome. All right, so here we go. Direct Gmb post, reasonable click activity numbers, guys. You don't want to go overboard on this unless you're running a press release. If your target URL in the press release is a Gmb post URL, then you can murder it, right? You can go crazy with traffic numbers there, because then it's appearing as if it went viral as a press release, and people are clicking through from the press release to the Gmb. But if you're going to do straight traffic to the Gmb posts themselves, then I recommend that you stay with reasonable numbers so it doesn't look suspicious, okay? So with that, the CTA button, guys, is the URL, that your target URL within the Gmb post. Yes, you can add links into the post body of the Gmb post itself, so text-based links that will hyperlink as URL anchors, but those are no-follow links. There's still value to those, but I don't know if you guys know this, but the target URL or the CTA button in a Gmb post is a do follow link from Google. So it's very, very powerful. You can do a lot of really cool and nasty things with Gmb posts. So I highly recommend you guys start using them if you're not already. But what I like to do with the Gmb posts is direct non-search traffic, unless I'm doing referral traffic through a PR like I mentioned. And what I do is I always start with a very, very tight radius for Gmb posts, like literally is down to 1 mile radius from the geo coordinates of the Gmb location. I always do everything by coordinate, and I don't do it by city, state, and that kind of stuff. I always do it by coordinates. But what I start with one, like usually it depends on the project. If it's brand new and it's not showing, like any green and the GeoGrid, I use Bright Local, but if I look at they call it the local search grid report. But if I don't see any green, then I will start with the middle, right where the middle of the GeoGrid report is, which should be the physical location of the Gmb. Even if it's a spanned listing, it's the physical location, right? So I'll start with that, and I'll start with a 1 mile radius, and I will do traffic through a Gmb post to the target URL, which is the CTA button, to whatever I want to direct power to. So it varies. I recommend if there's a location landing page, so a money site associated with the Gmb location, then I will use the CTA button, will link to that location landing page. But I vary it up, right? I will also link directly to the Gmb website, or I'll link to the Gmb map URL and variations of the map URL. So for example, the CID, map CID equals URL, that one, which basically is a redirect to the long ugly maps URL, but it doesn't show as a redirect. It's weird. If you look at like Where Goes or Redirect Detective or something like that, and you put the CID URL in, most of you know what I'm talking about. If you put that CID URL in and you click, trace, then it will show that it's a 200 HTML header code that just it basically redirects to that long ugly maps URL without it being technically a redirect. So that's a good URL to use in the CTA buttons. But you can also, and I would recommend doing this, guys, vary it up. I didn't used to, but I started varying up, like instead of just always using the CID map URL for all link building and everything, I also use the Google Maps share URL, which, if you go to, for example, you guys know what I'm talking about, but it is a 302 redirect. So it's not the best to use, but in fact, let me pause the screen for one moment and I'll click through to that map. Just give me one moment, guys. Okay, and here's the URL I was talking about. All right, so I'm gonna paste this in, and before I hit go, so that's the CID URL. You guys know that, right? So that, again, if I hit go, it's gonna take me to Gatling Tree Service Culpeper, just to show you what I was talking about. If I go to Where Goes, I paste that in, click trace URL, it's gonna show that it's a test 200 or 200 code, which shows no redirect. It does redirect, but because once it unfurls, it does, but whatever. It's a great URL for SEO. But what I'm saying is, now I've started switching it up to where I'm not always just using the CID URL. I'm also using the share URL from here, right? So that share URL right there, I usually get rid of that question mark share equals at the end of it. But again, this is for traffic purposes. I like to use this URL because that's the share URL, so it makes sense. But for SEO purposes, there are a number of URLs that you can use, right? You can use the long one. You can use this share URL. You can use the CID URL. You can also use this URL right here, which is also a different URL. If you click that, that's a different URL too, right there. So again, all of these URLs, just vary it up, just like you guys know how to use varying URLs for YouTube stuff, right? You want to do the same thing with map stuff. Does that make sense? So, all right, back to the slides, and oops, I keep doing that. Got high level, too many Chrome instances. All right, so again, I start with 1 to 3 miles. Once I start to see the map coverage expanding, then I will expand that out. So for example, if it's a Gmb that already has some green, then what I will do is I'll expand that maps, the radius on the Traffic Viper targeting, geolocation targeting, to outside of wherever the green is showing, so that I can start to expand kind of that green coverage area on the GeoGrids, okay? The search keyword, once again, brand search. I just do a brand search because if we're doing direct traffic, it doesn't really matter. You just have to have something in there. So I just usually put the brand name in there. And in the URLs to click are the specific URLs, the Cta Button URL and the Gmb post. And then this is what I was talking about earlier, but if you use a tracking redirect to confirm clicks are coming or occurring. Does that make sense? So again, if we go back to here, and I pulled up some examples here. We'll show you, for example, here is an example of a Gmb post URL. By the way, let me show you, I got to share this with you guys because otherwise you might not know what the best URL is that I found to use. But if we click through to the main website, this is one of my lead gen assets under the TreeCare HQ brand. And for example, if we were to just click through to, like, I don't know, this one right here. Here's the thing, guys. If we were to do let's just do this real quick. Okay. So if we were to click through to here and click the share button, and it's going to give us that little post URL, you could use that. I haven't really tested with that much because I tend to do everything as, like, when I'm dealing with the Gmb website, the Gmb posts, you guys, if you take a look at that URL, that's an inner page of the Gmb website. Does that make sense? This URL right here, if we copy that to clipboard and we put that in that notepad file, in fact, let's just use this one now. We put that in there, and I'll zoom in on this a little bit. Okay, so you see what that looks like, all right? Now, if we were to take that same URL and go back to, let's just go here and do it. go back to where it goes. We check that URL there. It's going to be multiple redirects. And you'll see there are 302s. See, look how many redirects that is. So again, for traffic purposes, that's fine. For SEO purposes, you've lost any link building that you do to this URL is pointless. Does that make sense? But because look at all the redirects, 2 of which are 302s. So it's just like, I mean, that's a lot of redirects. So that's why I'm saying for traffic purposes, it's okay to send traffic through that URL. And in fact, that might even, and I probably should do more testing with this, to be honest with you, because that might even be a good signal because it kind of creates kind of like a search click URL as well. If you look at the URL patterns here, you can see that that kind of shows as if it had been a search. So I haven't really done a lot of testing with that, because typically what I do, guys, is I do everything using the inner page, the posts as inner pages of the Gmb website. For SEO purposes, this is where you do all your link building, or to these post URLs. If that makes sense. Okay. So you can push a shit ton of power into your Gmb website by building links to these post URLs here. So that's what I do as far as again, if we were to take a look at like this post, for example, this, the target URL, which is the learn more button down here, it goes to tchq.link, which I'll just copy that and I'll show you. Again, I use redirect URLs. Again, my own branded redirect, just because I wanted that, brand for TreeCare HQ. But you could use something like Mgyb or Pretty Link on your own domain, whatever you want. Just something that I like to be able to have those click analytics. Plus, here's an opportunity to squeeze a keyword into the URL for a maps listing, for example. Does that make sense? So for example, if I were to click on this, I think this one actually goes to the Gmb website. It does. Okay. So what I'm showing in this particular post here is that the target URL so the CTA button is actually linking to the Gmb website. Now, I do something else, which again is, probably a little bit beyond the scope of what we're talking about here today. But, if you understand siloing, you can also silo Gmb posts. And so a lot of you guys are probably doing something similar already. So this is post number 2 of that TreeCare HQ Winchester post silo. So this is post number 2, this one being post number 1 with the target URL. So this is the top of silo post. The target URL in this case happens to link back to the Gmb website. Now this is post number 2. And so this target URL, if we copy that link address, you can see I've got a tracking URL there, but just with random characters. Okay. If we click through to that, that's going to link to post number 1. So it's just a post silo. And so you can set up traffic through the Gmb traffic, or excuse me, through the Google Traffic Viper by sending traffic directly to, and this is what I was talking about before, is I set up and in fact, what I can do is actually log in the Viper tools real quick and show you. So what I would do here is the website URL is where you're going to want to put your target URL. So let's say, for example, on post number 2 of the silo that I was just showing you, Gmb post silo, I'm going to take the post silo URL, or excuse me, post number 2 URL, and that's going to go into the website URL options as a Gmb post right there. Does that make sense? Then the target URL is going to be the post button from that second post. Okay, so let's go back. I've got too many damn windows open, so let me back out of here for a minute, guys. All right, so we're going to open that up again. This is post number 2. So then what I would want to do is copy that learn more button. So I'm going to copy that link because that's the link that I want to tell Traffic Viper to click. So I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to paste that in there. That's going to be my website URL. So it's telling the Viper, go directly to this URL and then click this URL, right? Then from there, if there are other URLs that I want it to click, once it clicks this URL, which brings it to post number 1, I can tell it, okay, I want it to click something there as well. And again, this has been hit or miss. Once Michael rolls out, and I hope I didn't let the cat out of the bag, Michael, but when you have the ability to direct the clicks in sequence in the way that you want them to do, you can add a lot of additional functionality to this. But for right now, what I would do is click through. And then, for example, guys, I was just copying content from other people for these posts when I did this. So that's just it's also one of those like overlays. Let's see if it does it. This might have just been a direct redirect. Yeah, it was apparently. But anyway, that I don't want it to click that. So I would copy that link and put that in the, because that's just going to somebody else's content. What I would do is put that on the URL blacklist, but I would tell it, and also from the previous post, I would say the same thing. So if we were to click back to this one, I would copy that as well, right? Put that on the URL blacklist because I don't want it clicking that. So I would actually put that above it right there. But then I would put the specific URL that I wanted it to click once it clicked this URL. So it goes to post number 1, right? So then I would grab this one here, copy link address, and I would put this in the specific URLs. So that once it clicks through, originally it goes to this post URL, right? Or the first post URL, which would be this one here. That's where it starts. Then it tells, I'm telling the bot, okay, then click this URL, which will bring you to the next post. And in the next post, I want you to click this URL, which in this case, because this is post number 1, that's going to take you to the whatever the target URL is at the top of Silo. In this case, it was the Gmb website. Does that make sense? It could be the money site, could be whatever you want it to be. Does that, you guys get that? And is there any questions on that, guys?
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. There is some more questions over there. Let me see if I can filter them. Okay, for the direct traffic to the Gmb post, is it occurring through the business site, business.site?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I was just showing you here. Like, that's what I was saying. Like, you guys, you have the there's a few, and I haven't tested much with the post share URL because I tend to do everything as inner pages of the .business.site. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
As far as SEO purposes, like, again, these, if you build links to those Gmb post share URLs, you're basically wasting your time. But if you build links to here, you're powering up the Gmb website and eventually whatever your target URLs are, because that's a do follow link.
Exactly. Yeah. And what you were saying earlier, Bradley, about the add-on I'm doing on for the Google Traffic Viper. Yeah, there's definitely an add-on coming. And that will be up to 15 hops. So 15 different destinations you can put into one campaign. So if you had an 8-tier network, you could pass juice traffic through all 8 tiers without having to set up 8 different campaigns.
Yeah.
So that will be super handy. And
just so you know, like I said, I've tested various post silos, like number of number of posts in a silo, like, as many as 6, and where I just would list the specific URLs in the order that I want them to click. And it's not exact. It doesn't work all the time, but if you're using redirect URLs that you can track activity, you can see clicks coming through. And that's what I'm saying. And also, you guys, you'll notice if you have in your Gmb, most people don't even know to turn these settings off, but you'll get notifications in your Gmail from Gmb saying, congratulations, your post got so many views, right? And you'll see that all the time when you're running traffic to these Gmb posts. You'll get a ton of emails from Gmb telling you that congratulations, your post got X number of views. And it's really cool because it's Google telling you that it's recognizing that activity.
Exactly. That's awesome. Before we get into the rest of the questions here, I wanted to just hop up and talk for just a minute, Bradley, not to push you out of the way.
No, it's fine, dude.
First off, thank you so much for coming up here. This is the first time I think I've had you up on a webinar in years. It's been a long time. So thank you for coming up today. All this amazing training. This has really been top of the line training. For the guys that don't know this, if you've been on my mastermind, you're probably going to roll your eyes and get bored here because I talk about this, pops up every now and then. But my origin story is this guy right here. All right. This is my origin story. Everybody always has, a beginning. And my beginning was Bradley Benner. And it was at Remax on a Thursday afternoon at a sales meeting. And I was told that there was a local SEO guy coming in. And I got really defensive about my real estate agents who I'd been working with for about 2 weeks. Little did I know that Remax had hired me, I think, to fire Bradley. Wasn't that it, Bradley? Was that what happened? Yeah. And I didn't know it, but they hired me to fire Bradley. And they had no idea about SEO because if they did, they would have kept Bradley on, not hired me at that time. So once I figured that out, and I was, like I said, I was really defensive about this local SEO guy coming in. So like the typical smart ass I've been in my life, I kicked back like this in my chair. And I was like, oh yeah, guy from Culpeper. Let's just see what he has to say. And Bradley started talking, and it was like hearing Klingon. I had no idea what the hell that man was saying. It was in a different level of of understanding. I was right here. Bradley was up here. So Bradley was my beginning. And if you're into SEO, which you are, if you're here today, you're into SEO. And if you're doing any type of SEO and you're wondering about local and you're wondering about the video, which they do, and you're wondering about Gmb, Semantic Mastery is the place to go. I highly recommend it. That's where I got all of my training. That's where I got all of my understanding. They are an amazing group of guys. It's 5 guys in there, and Bradley is their captain. He's the owner. He's the guy driving the ship. But there's also 4 other co-owners as well. They're all amazing guys. There they are right there, and I highly recommend them. I'm just saying this straight up. There's no affiliate link. Go check it out. There's Bradley's Facebook group. He's got an amazing mastermind. They've got very, very good courses. And of course, the RYS, Rank Your Shit, which is awesome. And they've got the MYGB, is that correct?
MGYB, make Google your bitch.
There we go. Make Google your bitch.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's amazing. And you want to check it out. This guy is the real deal. He's the real deal.
Michael, and your check is in the mail for that.
Just come over and play some pool sometime, man.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. Michael and I talked about this last week, and I just realized that he's like 6 miles down the same road, lives like pretty much off the exact same road that I live on. I didn't even know that. So we definitely need to do that, buddy.
Yeah, fun times. All right, man. Let me go ahead and jump in here for some questions real quick. I'll try not to overdo it here. Johnny Chen was asking, do you in your training, do you show a YouTube video for siloing press release power?
Yeah, that's what that URL right there. That's what he asked about. Is this the link for the press release silo? Yes, that is the link.
Okay, awesome. Okay, awesome. Yep, there we go. There's that one. Let's see here. Are you using banner ads with GDN traffic?
Yeah, that's what display network ads are. That's what I was showing earlier, guys. The beautiful thing about banner ads is, like, for example, I am still sharing the screen, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So if we go in here, guys, what's beautiful about display network is, any of you guys are old school and used to run Google ads, or have run Google ads for years, you probably, if you remember what it used to be like on the display network, it was a real pain in the ass to run ads, and I hated it because you had to have your ad set created by like a designer or do it yourself, for God's sake, which, I could never do. But you'd have to have all the different sizes, the banner, the rectangle, the skyscraper, the leaderboard, like all those different types of ad sets. And so you'd have to have like a whole set of ads, and then you'd have to have, in order to split test, you'd have to get those ads, recreated by the same designer or whatever. I know there's programs that would make a bunch of ad sets and all that, whatever. I just never liked doing that. But now what's beautiful about the display network is all you need to do, and I'll just show you, for example, like let's say I wanted to add a new ad. I'm going to say responsive display ad. Let's just select that one. What's beautiful about this, guys, is Google creates all your ads for you now. All you need to do is upload logos, like 2 versions of your logo, a square version and then a rectangular version that's a 4:1 ratio. And then you upload some photos, and you can add a video if you want. And then you write 5 headlines, you get 1 long description, and then you can add up to 5 long descriptions. And Google will automatically create versions of your ad by mixing different images plus your logo plus different headlines and descriptions. And over time, the machine learning auto optimizes the combinations that produce the highest click-throughs. So what's great about it, and I just wanted to show you like very quickly how easy it is, and it'll tell you how, it'll give you optimization tips and everything else. So you don't have to create new ad sets anymore. You just go in and create one ad with a bunch of different images. And then after you get the ad account or the ad campaign has started to produce some activity and some data starts coming in, then you can go back and actually analyze the assets. For example, like if we look at this one, let's look at this one. It's going to show you right here the performance of each one of your headlines and your descriptions and your images, and it will tell you low, good, and best. So then you can go in and you can take your images or headlines or anything that's performing and says low for the performance. you can swap that out with a new image. So until you can get it to say good or best. And then now you know you've got a winning combination. So Google will automatically auto-optimize your display network ads over time to where you get the best results. And again, it makes it so much easier, because I used to hate display network stuff, because you used to have you'd have to have a graphic designer, you'd have to have multiple ad sets to test with and all that. And now you don't have to do that. You get to do it all with just a few still images, a video if you have one, a couple versions of your logo. Yeah, and it's a 4-to-1 ratio on this logo here. And then, like I said, it's just allow Google to auto-optimize for you and tell you which components of your ad aren't performing well, and then you just swap them out, and you just keep split testing until you get a good performing ad.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. That's very in-depth. That's exactly what everybody needed to know here on that one. Aaron says, you use the Latitude, Longitude geos that are not the client's location for the service biz for the Gmb Post and Traffic Viper.
Yeah. Again, it depends on, there's certain things I can't really talk about, but yeah, can you manipulate latitude and longitude coordinates? Yes, you can. So.
Okay, perfect. Is running traffic through the post diluting because Google started not allowing URLs posted in the actual post as opposed to the learn more where you enter the website URL?
Well, Google does allow URLs in the post. What Google doesn't like in the post, in the text body of the post, is NAP data. Like, it doesn't like you listing phone numbers. And I don't really do any storefront business stuff, but for service area businesses, it used to be my default, like my standard operating procedure for Gmb Post was to always have the NAP at the bottom of the post, and then NAP and then a website link or whatever, and then there would always be the Cta button as well. But Google would started rejecting those posts fairly regularly. Sometimes you can sneak them through, but most of the time they're automatically rejected. You'll publish it, and then within 30 seconds it rejects it. And it's because of the phone number is what I found. So if you remove the phone number, and so I just stopped putting NAP data in the actual, I put a call to action, like, and again, if we go back, we take a look at this right there. So right there, guys, is my call to action paragraph that I always put at the bottom of every post. And it's similar for every project that I do. But so I put a call to action, like, sentence or whatever at the very bottom of the post, but I got rid of NAP info. Because that again, that's where it's not that I don't get any problems linking out. Like, this one's a poor example because I think this one didn't have the overlay. Oh yeah, this one does. It must have been the other one. But see, and one of the services that I use, which by the way is really interesting. If you guys, this is completely unrelated, but if you see that is a subdomain of treecarehq.com. There was a service that I'm using called heyskip.com. There was an AppSumo deal for this. It was like $39 for lifetime. And apparently I got a notification of this, that they merged with another company. But anyways, you can set up on your own domain, like a subdomain, these redirects, which is similar to what I was doing with the tchq.link, but then you can create these overlay pages. And so you can see this is basically saying, this is somebody else's content that I shared within the Gmb post. And what we did here is we just literally copied, other than that, we copied this content directly from this post and just posted it, published it in here, but we gave attribution. You always need to give attribution when you're using other people's content, guys. So I did that. I'm giving attribution, but I'm doing it through one of my own URLs, which is crazy because this actually counts as a page, as a subdomain page for TreeCareHQ. And this can become a link building target with the target URL, that button right there. So it's a great way to use this as the location landing page I have for that project. But it's this becomes another link building target is what I'm saying. And so to get back to the question was I've got a blogger now. So she produced, I'm not doing this method particularly anymore because we're using Jarvis conversion AI to draft the Gmb post because it's so quick and they're unique. But this, putting a link to attribute or cite the source where that content came from, I've never had a post rejected for that. If that makes sense. NAP, if you put the phone number in there, oftentimes it'll get rejected. So I just stopped doing that.
Awesome. That's great, man. Thank you. Thank you on that. Okay, Christine asked, is it better to have a Gmb site or a standalone site? also, can you have both?
Yeah, you can. What I found, and this is what I'm doing more recently, and you know, for clients as well as for my own lead gen assets. For example, this Tree Care HQ Winchester project. If we were to just take a look at, let's just go do a quick brand search on that again. You'll see I use both, but here's what I'm doing. So I found that, you know, if it's a client and they want their primary website listed as the Gmb, you know, as the website button in the Gmb, then do so. You got to keep your client happy. And most of the time that's what they're going to want. In my case, with most of my tree service contractors, they just want the damn leads. If they have a website already, then you know, most of the time, unless like it's an upsell, if they want to upgrade and they want me to work on their website, then oftentimes I will end up just selling them a brand new like I'll just rebuild a whole new website based upon the way that I do things, as opposed to trying to optimize something that some other shitty SEO did or that they did themselves or whatever. So typically I don't even offer website stuff anymore for clients, because I try to stay within the Gmb as much as possible. But so what I've been doing is, as you can see, like the website URL for this project is the Gmb website. Okay. And this one is a bad example. I'm sorry, because I did this, I transposed this. In this case, I have the appointment URL is the Gmb website, and I have the website landing page. So the website URL as the actual landing page, which is basically, and I'm sorry, I clicked through the wrong one, which is essentially just a landing page. It's a one-page landing page that has this is a Lead Simplify form. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Mike Martin and Lead Simplify. It's awesome, awesome product. So this is my Lead Simplify form. And then I have my phone numbers and everything else. Let me give you one more example, one that's more recent, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Here's another one. I just rebranded this one last Monday, in fact. Bethany, let's see if it comes up. Yeah, right here. Okay, here's another one. This was called Bethany Tree Pros before last Monday, and I rebranded it to Tree Care HQ to kind of bring some of my like odds and ends under the same brand. And if you take a look at this one, the website URL is the Gmb website. See that? But the appointment URL is the location landing page, which is just, and this is what I'm doing from going forward. Like I just clone this page and swap out the details for whatever client it is or whatever lead gen asset it is. But what I'm saying is I use the location landing page as the appointment URL now, the Gmb website as the website URL. And I found that tends to push the maps ranking a little faster than if you swap that or transpose it to where you have the website as the website URL and the Gmb website is the appointment URL, which is what I had been doing for years, for like literally the last 3 years probably. But what I found is if you can get away with it, like if it's a client that doesn't care, a lot of my tree guys just don't care that their website is linked here. They just don't care. All they want is the calls and the leads, which makes sense. So I go with the Gmb website as the website URL for the Google listing, and then I put their landing page, if they have one, as the appointment URL. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Awesome. All right, let me see here. I think we have a few more questions, guys. If you have any last minute questions, drop them in. We're about to close it out here. We've picked Bradley's brain completely clean.
For about 2 hours almost now.
Yeah, he'll probably slip out of his chair like a banana peel here in a few minutes, be like, dear God. All right, let's see here. I think we have, I think that's it. I don't see any other questions here.
I see a couple. Dan says, are you pointing the display campaign to your client's Gmb business site? Yes. As well as, like I said, the map URL itself. Typically for the map URL, I'll do the, like I said, the long map URL. For those of you that know what I'm talking about when I say you can manipulate the coordinates, you can do that too. Again, I can't share that here, guys. I'm sorry, but some of you asked about it. I know you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, you can do that as well. Have you tested Traffic Fuel for display ads for local? No, I haven't used Traffic Fuel at all. That's David Sprague's product. I know that. I use, by the way, I use the hell out of his rep videos. Those are great. You know, they're great because they look decent, and unless you're in the SEO or like the, online marketing industry, those look like we've seen them a million times. So we're like, oh, that's old. But a lot of tree guys have never seen a rep video. So like I use those rep videos all the time. In fact, occasionally when I do run a video Viper campaign, it will be a rep video because that's all I use anymore. But those are great, by the way, to download those videos, guys. Optimize the metadata of those videos. So it's like Like you can add metadata to a video like you can an image. You can use Mass Optimizer, MP3 tag, which is free. You can also just right click, go into properties of the file and actually add metadata there. But if you upload that video file that's been optimized with metadata to the GMB as a video, go into the photos section, click on video, upload it there. That becomes another really, really good signal for GMB.
Awesome. Awesome. That's great. Yep. Rep vids are handy. Came in late. Well, there'll be a replay. No anonymous, no replay. No, I'm totally joking. Yes, there will definitely be a replay with that super sexy Zoom lady's voice.
Yeah, that threw me off, man. She just started talking to us like recently.
Yes, yes. Last week I noticed it during the last mastermind. It's like, oh, shut up. Gotta love their automated voices now. Good stuff. Awesome. Well, Bradley, thank you so much for coming in today, man. I super, super appreciate it. One more time, if you could drop out, if you could drop in the chat your links to your mastermind, Hump Day Hangouts. That's what I missed earlier, and I don't think Bradley talked about it. Every Wednesday on Hump Day, there's a Hump Day Hangout, and it's awesome. You always see the camel with the humps on it. And yeah, super cool thing. I think that's free, right? You can go straight into YouTube, watch Hump Day Hangouts.
Every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, we do Hump Day Hangouts for an hour. It's free. You guys come ask us questions about SEO or marketing, growing your business, whatever. And we always do. I think, in fact, I'm just pulling up the page right now. So semanticmastery.com/HDHO for Hump Day Hangouts. I'm going to copy the link, drop it.
Perfect.
In the chat. But we just, we've been doing that. On Wednesday this week, it'll be episode 344. So we're like almost to 7 years now that we've been doing that. So,
wow. Wow. Man, I can't believe time flew by that quickly, man.
Almost 7 years now.
I mean, Remax, I think that was 2014, I think. We met up.
Probably right around that time, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Long time, dude.
So, but yeah, you guys are welcome to come ask us questions over there at any time. You know, again, if you were interested in any of like our done for you stuff, that's at mgyb.co. You know, you can buy one-off press releases there that are published through the Press Advantage network, and you get your own organization page there, which I don't know if you guys will see all this stuff when Michael does a webinar with Jeremy, but super, super powerful guys. I can't say enough good things about Jeremy. He's an outstanding guy. He's been a really good friend of us, and integrated a lot of our methods into the Press Advantage platform so that, I mean, you can SEO the hell out of those things is what I'm saying. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. That's great. Awesome. Perfect. Well, Bradley, thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for coming in today. We had a great attendance. I think we were almost up to almost at the 100 meter up there.
That's awesome.
And that was awesome.
Special.
Lots of great people. Thank you, Bradley. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, man. No problem. Anytime, guys. We'll do it again
Really
sometime
appreciate
soon.
it.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
See you guys.
Cheers.